So Christian Zorio is from Mission Bell Manufacturing in Morgan Hill, California, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. Given their location, they have no excuse but to be a technology-forward company. They use iPads, smartphones, and laptops in the shop as well as for installations. They also believe that automation is about the data and not the equipment.
According to Irish legend, Ulster, a great province in Northern Ireland, at one time had no king. And because of this, it was agreed that a boat race should take place. And the rules of the boat race were very simple. Whoever hand is the first to touch the shores of Ulster, so shall he be made king. Well, one chieftain so loved and desired the province of Ulster that he bought a boat. He assembled a crew, and he trained with them every single day. And lo and behold, the day of the race came. And our chieftain got his crew in their boat, and they lined up, and the objective was very simple: be the first to touch the shores of Ulster. We got off to a great start. The boat was good, the crew was equipped, and the wind was strong. And they made their way to that shore. Unfortunately, about 100 yards out, a competing boat caught up and overtook this chieftain. Faced with the reality that he would not be the first to touch that shore, he had to make a decision. So with the competing boat just yards away, and he just a couple yards behind, he made his choice. He took out his sword, he cut off his left hand, he picked up that hand and threw it onto the shore of Ulster and won the race. And he was made king that day. In fact, from 1921 to 1972, the red hand was featured on the flag of Northern Ireland. Now, this is what embracing technology can feel like at times. It's a sacrifice, it hurts, but it's absolutely necessary if you want to finish first. So, with that in mind, in terms of technology, and this is not about being cool, this is not about marketing, this is not about being hip, this is about competing in a marketplace. Who are your competitors? Who keeps you awake at night? And once you have those competitors in your mind, I don't want to be the harbinger of bad news, but there's a competitor that we all face that is bigger and badder than any one of competitors that you individually face. And it's Amazon. We are competing against Amazon. Amazon has changed the landscape of customer experience and customer expectations. My 18-year-old son can get his customized surfboard delivered to our house in 2 days. He can track where it is, he can track where it's going to be, and he gets a text at school when it arrives at our doorstep. And so our customers are asking us, why can't I get my complex millwork project done by the end of the week? Why can't I know where it is in your process? Because the information on our project should be transferred that quickly, and everyone has these expectations of us now. So the Amazon effect in terms of customer experience and customer demand is absolutely staggering, and we need to adjust. We need to adjust. So, what are your customers' expectations? What can you deliver that your customer struggles with? And what technology is out there to help meet those expectations? How do you get to this point where you're actually embracing technology as a competitive differentiator? And the main thing I want you to take away, if there's one idea that I'd like you to walk away from here, it's this. And I'm dead serious about this. You need to begin to see yourself not as a woodworking firm that happens to work with technology, but you need to begin to see yourself as a technology company that happens to work with wood. You need to begin to embrace that identity and that reality. I don't want anybody here to get left behind. And my fear in traditional craftsman-type industries such as ours that technology is a wave that's coming that cannot be avoided. And there's two ways to look at it. You can stiff-arm it and resist it, or you can embrace it. And stiff-arming it and resisting it, my friends, is a terrible idea. You need to come to terms and begin to embrace technology as a way to move your business ahead and begin to see ourselves as technology companies that happen to work with wood. And when this identity begins to sink in, the behaviors begin to change. Attitudes begin to change about innovation, about change management, and all the things. Technology is welcomed, researched, vetted, and adopted at a higher rate when this becomes your organizational identity. And speaking of adoption, I borrowed this bell curve from a marketing book from Silicon Valley Marketing on their software, but I think it's apropos. On the vertical axis, you have the number of people or companies, and on the horizontal axis down here, you have time. And in order to frame our discussion about tools that are available, I want to begin to place tools into this bell curve. But before I put tools into that bell curve, I want to position a couple of other things, of categories of companies, and I want you to think about kind of where you're at as a company. The first category of companies are early adopters. They are visionaries. They are tomorrow. This seminar is called Technology Tools for Today. So I'm going to talk about technology tools for tomorrow as well. They're scanning the horizon for what's coming. They tend to break away from the pack, and they are companies that will take risks. They're risk takers. That's your early adopters or your visionaries, companies that are thinking about tomorrow. And then there's your early majority, or more of your conservative companies, and companies that are looking at the problems of today. They're more analytic. They tend to stay with the herd. They manage risk, and the chief characteristic of these companies is that technology for them, they're motivated by present problems. This is really bothering us. Let's figure out some piece of technology that will help us make our way through it. Next, we have our late majority, or our conservatives, people who are looking at technology that was relevant yesterday. And these are companies that are more conservative and waiting for kind of proof of mass adoption, buying secondhand equipment, just waiting and watching and seeing what the group in front of them is all about. And then finally, you have your laggards, or your skeptics. Folks that are looking at technology that was relevant last month. Spoiler alert, you do not want to be in that category. You do not want to be in that category. Where are you on this curve? Now, before we leave this chart, I want to say about 10% of companies in any industry are in that tomorrow space, and about 80% compose the middle. That's why there's that rise in that bell curve. And then you have 10% at the back end with the laggards and the skeptics. So in this room, there's going to be 10, and there's going to be major, most people will fall in the middle, and there's going to be 10% here who are at the end. And so what I want to do in our remaining time is talk about tools in the tomorrow space and tools that are in the today space. So in this tomorrow space, we are going to talk about three things. 3D printing, or additive, what's also called additive manufacturing. We're talking about virtual reality, and we're talking about augmented reality. And what I want to explain to you is how we're using those tools now, and the struggles we've had with them, and how we see those tools being used here in the very near future. Let's start with 3D printing. And there's an immediate payoff with 3D printing, we believe, and there's a long-term payoff with 3D printing. So, by way of example, here is an architect's rendering of a project we did for Google. A very complex trellis wall, let's just call it that. Difficult cuts, a lot of curves and bends, and not an easy thing to pull off. It's easy to draw that. It's easy to draw that. It's a whole other ordeal to build it. This project, we wanted to 3D print it. And so what we'll do is we'll design it digitally. It will be dimensioned digitally, that complex trellis wall. And we need to do this, and we do this in AutoCAD, and we use microvellum. But we do this digitally, and we're going to have to change some of this design because what they draw may not work. It may not fit in the actual space. It might be too heavy. So we're going to have to really think through how this is going to be built. And so we design it digitally with our CAD program. Now we take that CAD file. It's work we already have to do. And we can export that CAD file into a different file format, an STL file format, to physically print it. And so what we did is we did just that. We printed a prototype of that wall. Before we built it, before we constructed it, before we manufactured anything, we printed it to look at and feel and see what this is going to look like. We talked to the architects about it. We showed the architect. This is what we plan on doing. And so we take the CAD files, we export them to an STL file, we print it up, and it's a great chance for prototyping. That's how we're using it today. But tomorrow, it's in order to prepare ourselves for the future of additive manufacturing. So the question I have for all of us is this: will our industry always be subtractive in nature? You take a 4x8 sheet, you put it on the router, you route out the parts. We're subtracting, and we have a net piece at the end. Or will the future be additive? What if our next CNC machine extruded wood? That's a possibility. You may think I'm crazy, but I think it's a possibility. And so these ideas, I think, will come about, and we just want to be ready for that when it comes. And it's a small price to enter. This is not an elaborate setup. That's where I took this picture, is because it really just takes up a counter space in our office, and that's what we do. Another technology that we are looking at is virtual reality. Same project. It's the opportunity for end users or clients or architects to walk through virtually their design. It's a way to help architects understand how we change their design. Right? Architects are not the millwork expert. We are. We have to draw up what they are considering. We have to make what they've thought of, and it may not work. And so in order to get consensus quickly, here's another tool that we use, virtual reality. Same project, we decided not only to 3D print, we decided to do virtual reality. Again, we have to do the CAD file drawings anyways. We're going to have to do this anyways, so why don't we use this in different applications? Again, a great way to collaborate, get consensus on what we're doing. That's the short-term payoff. The long-term payoff is this could be the way that millworkers and architects work together to cut down on the amount of red lines that are given back and forth. Man, we waste so much time with them. Well, they waste our time, actually. It's incessant. No, we don't like this. Send it back. No, and it goes back and forth. Meanwhile, the deadline doesn't change. It's difficult. It's a high pressure. So that's why these tools are important to us. We're trying to figure out ways to shorten time frames. They're just not novel toys. They have business objectives. And like I said, the best thing about what we do is we take this concept and we make it a reality. And this is what it actually looked like when we were done building it. Last tool, one more. And probably the most interesting is augmented reality. So in this case, what augmented reality is, you're taking your virtual design and you're placing it in the real physical space through your phone or your tablet. So in virtual reality, you're taking a virtual design and putting it in virtual space. Augmented reality, you're taking a virtual design and you're putting it in physical space. But I could also take that file and go to the job site and explode it and look at it in the actual physical space. I can walk inside that desk, I can look up, I can look down, I can look at the cabinets, I can look at the drawers. Anywhere I see, I'm seeing this digital drawing in the physical space. I thought, man, if you're a residential cabinet maker, this is gold. Because you could go to your client, and I am assuming that your clients are very much like our architects who change their mind constantly. I don't like that color, I don't like that wood, and you go back and forth. But they're like me. I have a hard time seeing things. We got our cabinets done a couple of years ago, man. I could not decide on it. I was losing sleep. Could not figure out what colors we wanted or how it was supposed to go together. And to go in and have your client look at what their cabinet, their elevations are going to look like in their kitchen, what colors they're going to be, what veneers you can choose, and you can choose them on the fly, and you can show them, is this what we want? Yes. Great. Now you can start building, and you have buy-in from your customer. So that's why I think how augmented reality will be used in our industry is really getting end users to buy in on what we are actually going to make. Again, cutting down lead times and delivering products faster. Remember, customer expectations are at an all-time high. Customer experience is at an all-time high because of Amazon. These are tools that we think we can use to meet those expectations. Big takeaway is this. Begin to see yourself not as a woodworking firm that happens to use technology, but begin to see yourself and position yourself as a technology firm that happens to work with wood. Don't be afraid to walk down that path. Don't be afraid to walk down that path. You are going to learn things along the way, and you're going to go in one direction, and you're going to say, you know what, this really isn't working out for us. But by going down this wrong direction, we figured out X, Y, and Z. Okay, we can take that step forward and pursue that. But to be stationary and not move is death. You've got to start walking down the path and experimenting and seeing what's out there and learning as you go. You have to be willing to fail. You're going to fail. And I know it's a popular phrase, but fail forward. Hey, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can we do differently? Let's move ahead as a company.